Welcome to the Porsche Club Insider, your one stop for all things Porsche and PCA. Here's your host, Vu Gwyn, and the Insider crew.
Welcome, everyone, to episode 69. We are in the Fiesta Ballroom at the La Quinta Resort and Club. And this is La Quinta, California, not Palm Springs, although we've been referring to it all year, all week as Palm Springs, California.
And as you can tell, Bill and Rob are on vacation. Damon and I are working because we got the team meeting, which evidently neither one of you were in, that we had to wear PCA gear every day. Damon's wearing PCA stuff. I'm wearing. You two are like ready for to get on the cruise. What port are you leaving from?
Do you not see my PCA shoes on? I've got my PCA gear
that
on.
does not count.
So if I wore one PCA shoe, that would count, right?
You can wear one, but usually wearing a pair is better.
Okay.
It's Friday at Parade, and it's been an amazing week. This facility here and the support staff, they've been fantastic. And let me just say, let me just back up a little bit. This is the second podcast that we recorded this week, but we're going to drop this one first because we had a number of things happen that we thought timeliness-wise we should drop this one first, but we're still going to drop the other one the following week. We're going to move things around a little bit because the Treffen Gateway to the West registration opens this week, so we want to pull that segment from the first podcast. We'll throw it into here. Robert will do his magic and make that all seamless, and then we will sort of stitch in.
My hair's a little longer now.
Yeah, I'm totally confused.
Yes, it's
so we'll stitch it. You'll see
continuity issues with your hair.
Very.
You'll see how it all comes together. But as you can see, we've got Damon, Rob, and Manny at the table, and we've got lots to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess we start off with why we're recording. We're using the podcast that we're planning to be podcast 2 as podcast 1.
So the reason being was, as you know, the Classic Club Coupe went to auction at PEC Atlanta last week, and we found out who the owner was. And
well, you knew right then.
Oh yeah,
who it was. We just couldn't.
We just
tell
couldn't
anyone.
say. It was again one more time where we have to kind of keep things a secret for a while. And we did post the sale of the car, and we shared with all of you that it was a 30-year member, but we wanted to be respectful, and we kept the person's name anonymous until we got an official green light to do so.
Vu is annoyingly good at keeping secrets. He really is.
I don't know what you're talking about.
When it comes to PCA and Porsche stuff with
it's
my
not
wife.
a secret if you don't tell somebody about it.
Manny hates
Wait,
it.
Is that the saying? I'm pretty
Yes, because that's why it's hot. If it's a secret, you're the only one that knows about it. Then what's the good?
Yeah, I like Manny's
Manny
version of
likes
that.
secrets where no one knows except for maybe he knows. Those are the kind of secrets he likes.
Yes.
That's a secret, right?
So
But
anyways,
I love dropping little hints.
In one of the photos that we took at the celebration at PEC after the car went through the auction, you will see Grant Larson on the phone while we're celebrating, and the person that he was on the phone with actually Jerry Seinfeld, the new owner and caretaker of the Classic Club Coupe. So immediately when we found out who the winner was, my thoughts was, wouldn't it be amazing if we could do an official handoff, transfer of ownership, hand over the keys, a celebration with him. So that's what I've been working on quietly behind the scenes. But as you know, people in the Hollywood and music, I can't tell you how many times I've tried to do things with Usher. And sometimes their schedule just doesn't allow them. They do their best to try to commit, but it doesn't happen. So I put things together. I want to give a shout out to Melanie Williams on staff, Kristen Holmes on the Parade staff, as well as the staff here at the hotel. We literally made a beautiful presentation room in the lobby of one of the ballrooms. The reason why it had to be is because we couldn't get the car completely into the specific ballroom, but it looked the part. And I'm curious, Manny was there. The list of invites was actually very small. So every point of the way that we put this together, I was in contact with Yanni Cabiglio and Sam Cabiglio, the two folks that handle the Seinfeld collection. And I said, does he prefer that we do it privately, small group? Do you want to do it as part of a big parade banquet? Do you want photos? Do you want videos? Can we announce that he's the winner? I really didn't know any of that information until he arrived, right? So we had to plan A, plan B, and plan C. I actually had to figure out a path for his driver to drop him off in the basement and come up through the back way, and then same thing for him to leave. But honestly, that was just one of the options. He was actually very cool. He had a car service and was dropped at the front of the ballroom and just kind of walked in, no problem. But before all of that, I wanted to get Manny's, what did you think when I finally told you that we were doing this?
I did not believe it was going to happen. Well, so I listened to Spike's car radio, and first of all, I don't know Jerry Seinfeld. I've met him several times, but I certainly don't know him.
He's been to Works Reunion.
Yeah. You say hi to him, but you want to let celebrities enjoy the day. They're not coming there to do stuff for you. So I really don't know him. I just know him from the podcast, and I got the feeling he didn't like big crowds, and he certainly keeps the Porsche ownership to himself and enthusiasts. It's not something I see him talk about in public interviews. So I did not think he was going to do this. I just couldn't picture him. I think he would have been. I thought he's just going to have the car delivered to his car collection, and that was it. So I was expecting a text from you that said it's called off. You don't have to come at 2:30. But kudos to you because you managed to pull it off. Not just that it was a secret. Obviously, I knew it, and I kept a secret. But the whole turning the room into this, what it reminded me of? It reminded me when we saw the 918 Spider at Rennsport 4, I think it was, and it was still a prototype, but they had it the same way, and pipe and drape, and we walked through this room, and suddenly there it was invited guests only. So that's the same thing with this. No one knew what was going on because there was no banquet at that time of day in that room, and that building is used for banquets. So it was very quiet how everyone got into that room to watch, and he was genuinely surprised.
He was genuinely surprised. As he walked through the door, I greeted him. Everyone was behind the curtain, so to speak, waiting for him. And it was funny, as he walked in and I introduced myself, I said, "Hi, I'm Vu." He said, "I've seen you on TV."
That's great.
Of course, ironic joke, right? Yeah. Like right from the beginning, I was like, this is going to be cool. So we walked through the curtain and everyone, applause as he walks through. And I think he's taken aback. And we did say that it was going to be, fairly small group, but a fairly small group in PCA is a hard thing to do.
But to paint the picture, he walks into a room that's now all the windows, everything's black by black curtains, tastefully done. The car's sitting on a platform that's fire and gold, I think.
Yeah, fire and gold. Thank you,
Was
Thomas.
Thomas. Yeah, Thomas.
That was cool. The LED around it.
Yeah, it's all covered by LEDs, so it is. Yeah. It looks spectacular, but it's covered at this point.
It's covered.
It's covered, but you can see the LED. So he walks into the slightly darker room, and voila! There's 40-some people, and they all start applauding. And he looked and he put his arms up. He goes, "Now that's the way I want it to be every time I walk into a room."
He did say that. He is such a.
So you could tell he's like a little kid about to get a toy.
And I was about to make the same observation. He was like anybody else, seeing their new car for the first time. Nothing remotely jaded about him, which I thought was really cool.
Raffle winners. People say, well, they don't look impressed when you surprise them because there's so much they're processing that the emotions on the face go neutral. But with Jerry, he was you could see the smile on his face.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he was very excited.
He was seeing the car for the first time.
Exactly. It was I think he was making sure he wasn't going to miss this because he knew his new car was just around the corner.
So he walks in, and again, for those of you that are at Parade, and of course we couldn't invite everyone, I apologize, but please know that this was at his request. But we did have representation from PCA's Executive Council. We had Porsche Cars North America, Porsche Classic. We had Mark Porsche representing the family there, and it was it was so cool. Like, it was surreal. I was like stressed. I had butterflies. We did I wanted to ride that line between being too formal and being too casual, but also not just shotgunning with too much information, because yes, he knows he bought the car, right? Put this into perspective. Everybody, I think, knows his worth, or his, how much the big of a collection he has, and his ability to buy cars.
It's car spending money. Yeah.
Exactly. And you want to make it special, but not make it too formal and too uptight. And I hopefully, again, Manny, you being there, and Rob as well, I thought it was a nice balance, and I feel as though we gave him enough to really be impressed by the car. But I think he's gonna think about maybe having us together again. We didn't share all the stories. That car has so many stories that I want to share with him and share with his team. And
everyone listening, you can hear all these stories, because we did discuss them over the past 2 years. We've had Tech Tactics events that are on YouTube. We've talked about on the podcast. So obviously, hopefully, maybe he'll do some digging and.
Yanni and Sam says, he texts us in the middle of the night that he's watching something on YouTube, and we got to answer questions and find out more about the cars. And so anyways, we did the presentation. We had a cover over it. Hopefully, for those of you that are watching on YouTube, you can see it. We had a black typical Porsche presentation cloth, and I thought it would be funny because the car actually comes with a specific Classic Club Coupe car cover. So actually, we put that on first, and then we put the presentation.
Black cover with silver,
with the stripes,
over the top of it.
Yeah, world's best car cover.
And like my teenage kid, he pulls out his phone. He's getting ready to do like this Instagram video, and we pull the first cloth, and he sees the car cover, and he just laughs. He's like, "You got me."
Yeah, that was well played.
Yeah, and then we pulled the car cover off, and man, there's several quotes that I kind of overheard as he was talking with Grant Larson after the reveal, that I'll share with you once we get our articles and our press release out. But I'm very proud for PCA. I'm proud for all of us here at the table that have been a part of this, and I think he truly, truly appreciates what he has.
Yeah, it was a great ending to a great story that started with you finding that car semi-derelict in Springfield, Virginia.
Exactly.
It seems like it was yesterday.
An ugly duckling that was left to be forgotten, and now it's a beautiful swan. I think I've said that a million times, but that's truly the story.
Yeah.
And so the whole turnover for this was, we really only had like an hour window, or that's what was told to me. And so the presentation did take roughly an hour, but then he needed to stay to do something with Grant. Supposed to be, it was going to be 20 minutes. Turned out to be an hour and 20 minutes, and that's would normally be okay. But again, because we were doing this sort of in secret, I said, "Oh, you need 20 minutes? That's about perfect."
Yeah.
In terms of, we need 20 minutes to get the car out of the building. So you do your thing. We'll pull the car out, and then you can hop in, and boom, you're gone. Like, that's the plan, right?
Yeah.
So we pull the car out. No one here at Parade has seen the Classic Club Coupe, but so as all the enthusiasts are on property, they see the Classic Club Coupe. They don't know why it's here, but then they start, forming a crowd around
and
the
it's
car.
parked right in front of the 15-foot Transformer.
Oh, yeah.
From the newest Transformers movie. So people have taken a picture of Transformer, but they haven't taken a picture of this Classic Club Coupe in front of the Transformer.
And it's a great shot.
It's a great shot.
It only happened one time.
Yeah, exactly.
We should also add, this is the first 996 that Seinfeld has bought. He didn't even own a GT3.
Yes, that surprised me
Prior
when
to
I
this.
asked him if he owned a Mark 1 or Mark 2 G996 or RS, and he said, nope, never. He said, none of them.
I wouldn't be surprised if this car doesn't maybe lead to a 996 GT3 RS at some point, but I had a fun conversation with Sam about how both Seinfeld and Sam kind of came to the same conclusion at the same time about the design of the 996. It was like a switch flipped. We had not previously been huge fans of the 996, and then all of a sudden both of us come to the conclusion at the same time that, this is actually a very pretty car. and there's nothing inherently wrong with those headlights.
No, and in fact, he almost was a bit shameful that he didn't appreciate the design and architecture of the 996 when he was first introduced to it. I'm sure that at the launch and stuff, he went there, and like most Porsche
He gave some
enthusiasts,
kind of
right?
sharp feedback at the focus group back in like
This
1997.
car was following the 993.
Yeah.
I mean, that is one
That's a
hard car to follow.
Exactly.
And people can be forgiven for not liking this car because a lot of people didn't. And not so much that wasn't respect of the car itself. It was just the fact you're following such an icon, the last air-cooled, one of the most beautiful 911s ever, the 993. So, you know, if you by itself would have been an awesome car. Following the 993, that's a lot of big shoes to fill. But he was just smitten with this car. He was smitten with the whole. You could tell couldn't wait to get in the car and drive it.
I mean, he was,
Which was great. He drove it the 125
Oh, yeah.
or 130 miles back. Sorry to steal your thunder.
No, absolutely. That's the thing is when Yanni and Sam were, after this, I said, so you're going to drop the car off? No problem. I'll figure out a way to get in. And I said, once the car's done, we'll get your driver. We'll load it up right by the door, and he can hop on his plane or helicopter, whatever he takes. They're like, no, he wants to drive the car home. I'm like, you mean like 2.5, 3 hours away? They're like, yep, we're going to put gas in it before it gets on the truck. We will, he's just going to hop in
I
and
mean,
go.
that was the coolest aspect of the whole thing,
Yeah.
because he very easily could have helicoptered back to the Palm Springs airport, gotten on a jet, and done whatever. But he hops in the car like you would have, like I would have, and off he went to L.A.
But the car did not have gas when we brought it inside.
Right.
Right.
It only had an eighth of a tank,
Yes.
and the battery was
Just in
disconnected.
case the fire marshal's listening.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. Again, we know he's an enthusiast, but everything that he does, when you observe it, you're just so impressed. And I don't want to come across as a fanboy, but I always look for opportunities. Once we knew he bought the car, what can we do with the handover? And then when I found out that he was driving it home, I'm like, we've never filmed or photographed the 996 in the wild. And I'm like, here's our opportunity. So again, let me just back up a little bit. When he arrived, and as things were going so well, I basically asked, I was like up front, I said, do you mind, one, if we take, candid photos and share the news that you are the owner? He was, without hesitation. He's like, absolutely. I think people know I'm a Porsche guy, and this is.
He said, I'm going to be driving this car a lot, and people are going to see me in this car, so yes, you can.
Yeah, I think it's
Nice.
fine to fanboy out here, because his regular guy quotient was really high. He was very gracious, and I was very pleasantly surprised.
So back to, he finally hops in the car, waves, and says goodbye to the crowd. And I'm thinking he's going to pull out and wait for, I think Yanni was driving a Volvo or something like that, and they would carpool.
Polestar SUV or something.
Oh,
yeah.
was it? Something like that.
Something,
Anyways,
yeah.
he books it. And I'm in the F-150, and I'm grabbing Bogdan, and I'm like, let's go. So I told Sam, because Sam rode in the Classic Club Coupe with him, and I said, let's go. We're going to follow them. We followed him for a good 30 miles.
Oh, wow.
And every part of it was kind of surreal. I'm like, the Classic Club Coupe is in the wild. And we pulled up to the light over here. I forget, Eisenhower Road. There's like a dip.
Yeah.
There's a dip before you go onto the road that crosses it. Just like a car guy. And I don't know why I'm so surprised by this, but he took it at a 45-degree angle and just took his time. And as he's driving down the one road, you can see potholes ahead, and he straddles the potholes just like we would.
Yeah.
And he really took care of the car. I'm like, that is awesome.
Yeah. No, he was clearly, as you said, smitten with the car. And it's impossible not to be. The interior of that car is one of the most incredible bits of handiwork I've ever seen done. That woven, it looks, from 10 feet away, it looks like Pepita. You think it's cloth. It's woven leather.
It's
I mean,
gorgeous.
that's
the
it's
first
nuts.
time that
Who
it's
does
ever been-
that?
Grant found that fabric however many moons ago, wanted to use it, but the project that he was working on, for whatever reason, didn't get approved. But he still loved that fabric, and he said, man, I've got to make this happen.
But yeah,
And he did.
it's not fabric, it's actual leather.
Yeah, it's actual leather, exactly.
That simulates the look of houndstooth. It was just
So while he was in
Unbelievable.
comfort, the windows were up, so that means the air conditioning was working.
Yeah.
And you can tell that he's done this before because he stayed either in the middle lane or kind of in the right lane as we were in the F-150, and we were just circling him. So we did one pass with video, one pass vertical shots, one pass horizontal shots, and kudos to Boggs. He got some spectacular photos for us to share, and we've only shared a few on social media.
So
and
did you ask Boggs if he knew who Jerry Seinfeld was? Because remember, Boggs didn't come here until he was 18.
Boggs did not know the caliber of person because I remember parking behind him at the light, right? And I said, Boggs, he's probably paying for a good chunk of that car as we wait at this light. He's like, what? And then he gets on the phone and Googles it, and he goes, oh my God.
Yeah, he's like, oh, isn't he the guy from Comedians in Cars getting coffee? Yeah, I think
He's
I've
from the
seen
B
it.
movie.
Yeah, it's from the B movie, exactly.
He was impressed. I heard about it afterwards. So.
Yeah, he was definitely impressed.
funny.
And then once we got our final shots, I pulled alongside, and he kept going, and it was just cool to see the car just head out. And
That's a pretty fitting end to
Sunset.
the story.
Oh, that was
it
so
really
cool.
is. I mean,
But
you can't.
But it can't be
you know.
the end. It can't be the final chapter of that
All
story.
right, there's going to be an
because-
epilogue, hopefully,
So
of some kind.
before he left, I definitely said, you're the only one that can truly give us a driving impression of that car because, it did go to the 2 test tracks and stuff like that, but we haven't heard the feedback. We don't know how it drives. Obviously, we've moved it several feet to park it in place, but we've never driven it in anger, so to speak, so we would love to get that feedback, and he promised he would.
Could
do
you
that.
hear it when you were straddling the?
A little bit, but that car's not a loud
Stock
car.
GT3,
Stock
which isn't
GT3,
really
it's
not
not
a-
all that loud.
no.
It had to pass all the emissions, which means
Yeah,
all the
yeah.
mufflers.
Yeah,
are-
I mean, that was a big deal because Jonathan Siebert, pointed out the car's got a bar sticker on it for California emissions, which was a huge deal. And the
Huge
whole
deal.
story about having to do that little trip just into British Columbia and
Yeah.
then turning around
So it could
and
be
bring it
imported.
to customs. So it could
I
be
think
officially
Jonathan
imported
wanted
was fun.
Jerry to feel his pain.
And you know what?
And I think Jerry did. Jerry
Yeah.
was very interested in how they got this car legal in all 50 states. It seems very easy because they've done it. It's an engine that's legal.
Yeah.
It's a car that's legal, but it's not the way it works.
Right, and there's
the two of them together. Isn't
All right.
that.
Yeah, the chassis is different from, and the engine's different from the original motor and the roof, and Jonathan and the folks at AG as well. We have so many people to thank, so I apologize if I don't drop your name, but they worked so hard on that
Yeah.
car, and the whole point was for him to know that we put our blood, sweat, and tears into this, and I think he truly appreciated it.
Yeah.
He truly appreciated it.
I've got to ask you one thing, though.
Yeah.
What was the one thing that every 996 snob, when they looked at the car, commented on?
You mean the headlights?
The slab
No.
side.
No.
What are you talking about?
It had the amber side markers.
Oh yeah. I actually talked about that with
Yeah.
him. I said,
Yeah.
there was things we had to do in it, and when we designed it, we said, man, can we do the clear or the smoked turn signals? And they chuckled. They said, if you want this car to get back into the country, we're gonna have to put amber ones on. And
Yeah, I like the amber.
I was just going to say, I don't
yeah.
know why people hate amber side
I see
markers.
clear and I see aftermarket, and I
I would do
factory
smoked.
piece.
I would do smoked.
Yeah.
I don't hate them, but
So it's what happens is it gets old enough and people want everything original.
Yeah.
I saw that with the 914, everyone would put the Euro rear lights, which were amber and red. The US lights were all red. And so Porsche actually stopped making all red.
Oh, wow.
And suddenly I realized, because I had to show the car and it had to be all original, so I had to find a set of original taillights, and I realized how hard it was to find. I found one that was perfect, but at that point these are going to come back. And sure enough, you started
Yeah.
seeing people taking the Euro lights off and putting the original US lights back
Yeah,
on.
it's
So-
kind of ironic when you can find like the Italian market, front signal lights that are like they're
Clear.
half clear and half amber, easier than the all amber ones.
it's human nature. You want what you can't have, right? So
exactly.
Anyway, so I hope you enjoyed it. Manny, you've been along the process a long time, so thank you for keeping most of the secrets. I know because it's extra tough for you.
It was.
And meanwhile, when this was happening,
And meanwhile, when this was happening, what were you doing?
Well, at some point, Manny stole away for a 1 mile review of what was it, Signal?
Yeah, I missed the Jerry departure because I had to meet Damon and
And if you're watching YouTube,
the car owner.
beautiful car.
I knocked one off my bucket list.
Yeah.
To drive an original real '73 Carrera RS touring.
Yeah.
That was your first time?
The first time. Wow. Yeah, I've never even ridden in one. I've done the S, I've done the T, done the E, but never the
I want to
RS.
hear your impressions because it was funny. My point of reference for that car was the '72 911S that I had owned, and it was much more different than I thought it would be.
It was exactly, you're right. It was not
as
you
peaky.
read. I have an issue with automotive journalism when it's because a lot of these guys that write about these cars never drive them. They just read what other people have written and then they just regurgitate the people's thoughts. So I went in saying, well, people say it's only 20 more horsepower than a 911S. It's not that much different. And 911S
Power delivery is much different.
Yeah, it's a good compromise.
So on paper, you don't think that it's going to
So
be
I wasn't
as drastic.
expecting a whole lot.
Yeah.
My expectations were very low, but wow. And this is such a incredible example. So this car came from at one time. Remember Stanley Gold, the big Porsche collector? He was Stanley Gold, is a big huge Porsche collection and top-notch cars. So the owner was telling me the history of the car, and it came from his collection. And the owner drives the snot out of this car. This is not a trailer queen.
This car just came off of the Copper State 1000.
He's got like
He's done it 4 or 5 times.
five or six stickers on the back,
yeah.
and he was so chill.
Yeah.
He kept on leaning into the window, when I was all ready to go, and he said, "Now, Manny, I want you to drive this like it's your own car. Drive it as hard as you do your own car."
That's awesome.
And I just
Wow.
looked at him and I said, "Well, Manny's going to drive at 7/10. Manny can't pay for this car."
With the David Piper situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, but on purpose, I didn't want to drive the road ahead of time just because I wanted everything to be new. And Damon picked an incredible road.
Yeah.
He found this road up this mountain that, my God, if I lived close to there, that's all I would do every day. It's
Just drive up that road.
See if I could best my time, go up and down this road to the top of the mountain and back again. It was so. The bad thing about the video when you watch it is I hardly look at the camera. Normally, when we're doing these, we're looking at turning to the right and addressing the audience.
Yeah.
I was so laser focused on what was coming up ahead, and so the car, you'll hear about it in the video, but it delivers power much differently. It revs so freely. It is, but it keeps you on edge. It's not something where I said on the video, you're not checking your email, you're not checking updates on your phone while you're driving this. You are both hands on the wheel, looking straight ahead. I think I looked in my mirror twice. I figured no one was behind me, could catch up to me anyhow. But it was. I don't think I ever went like over 70.
Yeah.
But because the corners, there were so many corners. It was. I know I came back with a big smile on my face. It was,
Now, if you look at the photo or the video there, the size of the tires are not large by any means, especially
it's
compared.
15, 7,
Yeah.
15.
and they came with
or
6 and
something.
7s. He put 7 and 8s, which was
Yeah.
a common. He was saying that he read that the 6 and 7s were on there to keep it as late as possible for modulation, but it was very common for people to put 7.
So did it
and
have
8s.
enough grip, or was it like? How did it feel?
So the thing that really shocked me was in a straight line. As you know, I'm coming into on the straight line. I'm coming into a corner, and I lift off the gas in a straight line, and you can feel that weight transfer. I mean, the car never got loose or anything, but it was fairly dramatic.
You felt like it bit more as soon as
Suddenly,
you left.
suddenly I realized the rear end is very light.
Oh wow!
And that was shocking because obviously this car has no driving aids whatsoever. It's no PSM, no ABS, no power steering. It's very raw. But it was.
How did the brakes feel?
The brakes, of course, so you got to remember the year. It's nothing like a modern car.
Yeah, it's a '70s brake system.
It's not the hands of God stopping you
Yeah.
by any means. So it's you anticipate the brakes, and of course you can lock them up if you stab them too hard. Not that I never locked them up, but And when you're doing these drives, you're remembering you're driving someone's pride and joy, and that's worth a lot of money.
Yeah.
You don't want to be an idiot that balls up an icon.
I mean, that's easily a $500,000 car, right?
Yes, and
Yeah.
of course there's other people on the highway that aren't part-
800?
2018, I looked this up to show Bogdan. 2018, a Touring sold for $698,000.
Okay, so maybe 7. Wow.
Yeah, so more now.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, but I mean, the difference between a touring and a lightweight is crazy money. And if you drive them, there's not that much difference behind the wheel.
A lot has to do. Not every career RS is the same. Meaning, he has put a lot of money into making this car what it is.
Yeah.
So just like we drove different 964 career, or at least I've driven different 964 career RSs. They're not the same. They're both 92s.
Yeah.
They're both career RSs, but the feel of suspension, because look how old these cars are.
Right. So how it's been maintained makes a difference.
He's maintained the bushing, the shocks, because he drives this car.
Yeah.
This isn't a roll it out to the Concours field and roll it back in. I don't need to update at the shocks. So
How
he's
about
put a lot
how about
into
the transmission?
drivability. It's a 915, so that means that you're not speed shifting. It's a little bit more precise than a 901. Doesn't have the dog leg. It's a regular like H pattern. But I'm just used to older Porsche transmissions, which means you got like a millisecond heartbeat before you shift into gear, because you don't want to destroy the transmission. But I didn't have. It wasn't like I was thinking, am I in third or am I in fifth or in first? It was very easy with the lever to figure out what
I
gear
gotta
you were in.
imagine as the RPMs were climbing, did it sound like a symphony behind you?
You had above. I mean, I lived above 4,000 the whole time.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and the car did not like my Z3. I get it at 5,000. It's like screaming, "Stop! Just
Yeah,
slow down,
yeah.
slow down!" Don't.
Yeah.
But this car was just telling you to go faster and faster.
Really?
The interesting thing when I drove one last year, I thought it was nowhere near as cammy as a 2.4S. A 2.4S above 4,500 RPMs, just everything about the character changes, the sound and everything. And this was a lot more linear. But I also thought it was a really comfortable car to drive. The bolsters on the sports seats of the car are reasonably aggressive, but the corduroy, the cushion that you sit on is kind of poofy and it's a lot more compliant suspension-wise. You'd imagine. I could see Daly driving that car.
He drove that 300 and some miles to Parade.
Yeah.
Because his transportation fell through, and it has no air conditioning. I forgot the rating I gave it for
Daily driver?
Daily driver, no. Road trip, yes. The only drawback is the air conditioning.
Yeah.
But as far as comfort, like Rob said, it's not a rough ride. It's very compliant. But for him, I asked him, how would you rate this as a road trip? 'Cause we rode together back and forth to the start point, and he was telling me how much him and his wife drive. They road trip
Good for
all
them.
the time.
Yeah. I mean,
That's
for
awesome.
me, there are tons of things you can do that are totally reversible. Electric air conditioning and a Porsche Classic radio, and you could daily that thing.
Yeah, and depending on where you live,
Yeah.
like even here in Palm Springs during the day, it's hot. But like last night was
Last night was
cool
nice.
and almost kind of cold.
Yeah.
Or the early mornings here, man. Imagine having that car early morning
Well, we started
drive.
doing it around 6 o'clock, Damon, or we finished, or we were right
Yeah,
at dusk.
5:45, 6. So we
That's
got
probably
right
like
at
the
dusk at
perfect
the
time
end.
to
And coming
enjoy that
back,
car.
the weather was, we had the windows down, obviously, and
Yeah.
it was the perfect summer night.
So jealous.
yeah,
You guys obviously missed the hurricane that blew through last night. at about 8
Luckily,
o'clock.
luckily we did
Yeah,
this
right.
when we did it, not
Yeah.
last night when the
Yeah.
sandstorm came through.
Yeah.
But yeah, Carl was great. He was very chill. He was not nervous about us, and the whole time we were there, I was, while Damon was setting up and doing his thing, we were just swapping stories about cars and whatnot. And
It's really enjoyable.
Not to
one
plug
film.
Rainbow or anything, but the car is actually a very unusual color. It's I think it's signal orange, not signal,
Signal yellow.
It's signal yellow.
Yep. I asked
Yeah.
him.
Which is really not a very common color for 2.7
Well,
RSs.
it survived because a lot of cars, obviously, everyone thinks these colors have been popular from day one, but there was a point where everyone wanted a silver or black,
Yeah.
or
Reverse
white
red.
RS, not a yellow, and they painted over. But this one survived.
Yeah.
He was
It's
very
my
cool.
new favorite 2.7 RS color.
I
think
asked
that
him, I
color is
said, are
fantastic.
you nervous driving this on the street, someone rear-ending you? And he was like, it's been restored once to bare metal. It can be restored again.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was very chill about the whole thing. He,
Very chill.
So, anyways, it was a great experience. Actually, this whole parade, has been a lot of fun.
Parade has a vibe for sure.
Yeah.
I think I have to mention. I know Mark mentioned that Mark Porsche was here. But for those who don't know who Mark Porsche is, he is one of the sons of Butzi Porsche. Butzi Porsche, of course, was the designer of the 911, 904. He was the first, I think he was the first Porsche really designer, if you will, after Erwin Commenda. Erwin Commenda did more than just design, but he was tasked with finding the replacement for the 356, which was the 911.
That's a big task.
Yeah, so here's the cool thing, and of course, these people are very approachable at Parade. They don't have bodyguards, they don't have handlers that are blocking you from, and just hearing him say, I remember when my father did this, or I remember going to
When
my
they brought the
father's
car
office.
over to the house.
Yeah, and all these memories he has as a kid, having your father as Butzi Porsche, and then we found out, that his father owned several CJ Jeeps, and
CJs,
they loved going off road. It was really.
And he
I mean,
he
growing
loves
up in post-war
Americana.
Germany, you gotta be. You're probably used to seeing a lot of Jeeps.
Yeah.
I didn't want to tell him that.
But no.
No, but what was it in the banquet in his speech? He said he wanted to thank us for all the movies growing up, all the Americana movies.
Yeah.
I mean, he's into some
And he
cool
owns
stuff.
quite a bit of American cars. It was kind of funny because he was going through his list of iconic American cars. He was very excited the way we are about Porsches, and he says, which American cars do you all own? I was like, well, I got a 02 Suburban and a really
Camry was
crappy
built in the US.
12 Chevy Sonic.
Yeah.
Right.
Nothing that I would brag about, certainly. But he loves
True car guy, lots of stories, so down to
spends a lot of
earth.
time in California.
Manny, we've met a lot of Porsche family members through the years, and we're so grateful that they spend time with us. But do you get the feeling Mark is like the next generation that's going to be close with us? I think he's going to want to come and hang out and just do fun stuff with us and come up with future projects. And
We did
I had
fourth meal
fourth
twice.
meal at In-N-Out with him, and if you want to know his sandwich of choice, it is a double.
I think we could have done the rare.
It's everybody's sandwich choice. Let's face it.
We could have done the rare fifth meal. If there would have been
Del
a
Taco.
If there would have been
The other California.
the
Krispy
fifth meal-
Kreme.
Fifth meal is dessert.
Yeah.
And had there been a Krispy Kreme,
He would have done it.
Well, he wouldn't have
He-
hesitated to
yeah.
jump in the car with us to.
Yeah, we did fourth meal twice this week,
And there's no, and I mean, you would think with someone like that, of that wealth, there'd be a certain aura or certain attitude, but he climbed into Vu's F-150.
like a little kid.
Like we were six of us in this F-150 crammed in, going to In-N-Out, and he was. I like how when he was really bummed that he lost his Porsche design water bottle that we gave away 3. And I wanted to say, really? I mean, your dad owned.
He's like, "Where's my
Porsche
bag?
Design.
Where's my bag?" I'm like, "I'm sure we can get you another
And
one."
that and the In-N-Out stickers, he was bummed that he thought he left at the restaurant. But it was that's the kind of experiences but everyone at Parade, has the chance to meet.
Has access
not
to
only
him.
just Mark Porsche, but other people that they either read about in magazines or see in videos. It's a great experience because Parade isn't really open to the public in the sense that we're in this resort and we're walking between hospitality and banquet rooms and a parade store, and it's this little village where you're bound to run and bump into somebody, and it's very chill.
And that's the thing with Parade is the events, all the details of it on paper, and sometimes you kind of decide whether or not you're going to do it based on just that. And Parade is so much more because things that happen in the hallways, or you go to the Princess After Hours Lounge, and you have Grant Larson hanging out, drinking a beer, and you have Mark Porsche, you have folks from Porsche Design, and you have members from different regions. It's like that's to me like yes, I love all the events.
It's one of the most compelling reasons to go.
That's
to
why
Parade.
you go.
Yeah.
You go because you want to hang out with these special people that have this like-minded interests, and it's hard to convey that to people that just don't understand. Why would you give up a whole week?
And they want to be here. That's what
They want to be here.
I
yeah.
mean, we Porsche had seminars on Wednesday all day, and here's Grant Larson, who has spent decades at Porsche, and you would think he would say, you know what, I'm either going to go chill out in my room or hang out by the pool, but certainly I'm not going to be doing Porsche all day because that's what I do all day. He was at every seminar in the audience.
Yeah.
Because somebody said, asked me, they said, oh, when's the design presentation? And I said, actually, that was this morning at 9. And he's like, "Oh, I missed it." He goes, "I really wanted to meet Grant Larson." I said, "See the guy in the second row sitting down, listening to the seminar right now? That's him." I said, "As soon as I walk up to him, he is very
And you're a perfect
approachable."
example. After that dinner, you looked kind of tired, and you're like, "Oh, I'm going to turn in." I had like 5 minutes later, you turned around and you're together with us till 1 in the morning.
Second win.
I was promised In-N-Out, so
I was like, "Weren't you going to bed?"
All right. Well, like I said earlier, we need to introduce Del Taco into the mix. The
Yeah.
other
Yeah,
iconic
exactly.
California
Chicken
fast
Del
food
Taco.
chain.
So we also want to get into the other car that Damon got to drive, and interestingly enough, we ran into the owner at dinner, and I'm like, "Shouldn't you be at the 1 mile review with Damon?" And just like the owner of the RS, he's like, "No, I totally trust you guys,
Yeah.
and Damon's a good guy, and it's a car, and go out, drive it, enjoy it." He's like, "That's why I have it. I don't have it to keep it tucked away from people. I want Damon to enjoy it, and hopefully, he'll capture the spirit of that car."
so Damon, this is not street legal, right?
And this is, just by the way, a 2023 718 Cayman GT4 RS.
RS.
So
he
he
so
brought
you got
that
the RS,
and a Club Sport to the
okay.
autocross. And
He bought both of
He
them?
let Dan Dazzo drive the Club Sport, and then the couple who autocrossed his GT4 RS, which wasn't him, because this member actually autocrossed the Club Sport. He let a couple autocross the RS. They actually passed by the film location and said, "Is that this person's car?" And I'm
Oh,
like, "Yeah,
wow.
we autocrossed it today." So it's just, he's letting.
Autocross or no? Or was he working the whole time?
We'll have to bleep his name out.
Oh, shoot. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's all good, but that'll be a bad word that we'll bleep out or something like that. But he autocrossed, but he just, he's very open with, if he trusts the person, and apparently he trusts me, he's okay with handing the keys over. So hand the keys over he did to his GT4 RS, and I had just driven. I wasn't sure if he was going to come with me or not, but I know he wanted to go see a movie.
Yeah.
I believe Transformers, most likely. And so I had my car, all my stuff is in it. I'm thinking, I can't transfer my stuff, nor do I want to, into his GT4 RS. Like, it's camera gear, could damage something. So Bogdan, all by himself, drove my car behind the GT4 RS.
And that was probably a treat for Boggs.
That was a treat for Bogdan as well, since
Maybe we can get him out of that BMW.
yeah, I know. He really liked my car. He enjoyed the drive, I think. But yeah, we get there, and we break the camera gear out, and the lighting, just like it was about the same time as that we filmed the Carrera RS as well. So I have a lot of beautiful shots. If you're watching YouTube, there's just one right now. It's white it's a Visoc package, so it has the magnesium wheels as well. Bare carbon fiber hood.
I love the blue wheels.
Yeah, they look good. What's funny is I kind of prefer the look of the non-Visoc wheels, but I would rather have the magnesiums because it's. I mean, why wouldn't you?
The weight
Yeah.
So, so how loud is that inside?
So, my God, that's a loud car.
But good loud.
A good loud. Unless maybe you're on a road trip for 2 or 3 hours or longer, then I could see that getting there's some noise. It makes so many different kinds of noises depending on how you've opened the throttle, that I could see it getting maybe a little annoying sometimes.
Well, let's just cut to the chase.
But
Is this
that's
one of
probably the best. It's the best car I've driven in a while that I can remember.
Does it feel like a track car on the street, or does it feel like a finished car?
It feels like a really awesome street car and a track car at the same time. It's more compliant, actually, in its normal mode than my car on its Öhlins, and the Öhlins are fairly compliant. So Porsche has
surprising.
obviously been doing some work on suspension and ride quality refinement on their GT cars. And even if you put it into Sport Plus mode, or Sport mode, I guess, on that car, for the shocks, it's still on a smooth road like we were on. It was beautiful. You can use both modes on the street, unless you're in Michigan,
Where you can't.
Where you can't. You can probably stick with the normal mode. But I've never experienced sound like that in a car. I went full throttle a few times, but otherwise was just carrying a nice speed, on the same road Manny drove. And without giving the scores away, I don't think. What a car!
I'm sensing tens across the board.
Yeah. Well, they're
Because you were almost like floating when I saw you this morning.
Yeah,
He's
no,
like, do you want to know?
definitely.
Do you want to know how the review? I'm like,
Yeah,
no,
and
tell me
Manny's
on the
like,
show.
Don't tell me right now. We need to save it for
No,
the
actually,
podcast.
what I said, don't tell me. I want to hear your. I said, don't tell me how you did in autocross.
Okay. Yeah, see, I didn't even get that far.
Because I did the review. I had been totally radio solid.
Yeah.
And I didn't have anyone I could ask that I knew went to the autocross. How did Damon do in the autocross?
Yeah.
Because that's why he was really looking forward to coming out to this, and he managed.
Yeah.
We managed not to have any hiccups that he couldn't go.
Yep. So good transmission. So I'm just gonna get this out of the way. I wasn't on the right tires. I had a roof rack, and what else is in?
Oh my goodness!
There was an avalanche.
Everybody,
An old friend came into town.
Let's put the violin and put the chin
My
down.
tux didn't come back from the cleaners.
Well, Wendy Shoppett, I saw her and I said, "How'd you do?" And so she said, "Well, this was not a tight concourse. It was too short." And I thought, well, that means it's great for Damon.
It was
Right.
so I'm happy with my time. I had a great time on this course. It was actually a tough course. It left you a lot of options. There was a cement pad in the center, which
Is that the
100%
crossover they were
changed how
talking
much
about?
grip you had. What's that?
Was that the crossover I heard?
There was a crossover, and on my very last run, which if you're watching on YouTube, this is my fastest. And I was 27th overall on day 2.
Wow, that's some tough
the
competition.
Was, wow, people in California are really,
Well, that's
really
the thing
good
is,
drivers.
So you beat Dan Dazzo.
I did. And,
Wow,
but he was in a club sport, so that's wrong. It wasn't a.
Oh,
it was,
that's
it
even-
was
that's
le-
even more
it was
impressive.
Even better.
It was
That's
this
even more
member's club
impressive.
sport on slicks.
That's awesome.
So Dan, if you're
Wow.
listening, sorry, but I
Wow.
had to say that.
So here's the thing with parade autocross. We don't have like a point system, that culminates at parade. You have people that have never autocrossed, first time, a couple of times, or they only autocross at parade, and then sometimes you get SCCA national champions,
and there were several,
and you get the whole
There were
range.
several
And
at
this
this
one seemed like we brought some
Yeah.
A drivers out.
And in California, and this is also another good transition. In California, I forgot being from San Diego, but and this is throughout the whole state. People build these. I mean, I feel like they build autocross specific cars. They go all out, more than like track cars. Sometimes I feel like, and that'll lead us
And
to
hopefully we'll do a video later. Steve Lau's car.
Yeah, Steve Lau brought an amazing car, and it's a white 9.8 and 2010 Cayman that has a ridiculous 991.2 GT3 engine that he put into the car himself.
That's crazy.
And Robert, there's a video actually of Steve Lau's run, which at some point you're going to be able to see it. This is actually the Macon PEC, but let's talk about this first. So we had a Porsche Experience Center driving coach who took a base Macan out to set a lap time, and it was either 55 or a 58. It was in that range. The time that he ended up getting. And if you beat that time, you get entered into a raffle to go do a GT3 driving experience at either Atlanta Experience Center or LA.
Cool.
So he went out there. He went out on his first lap, and if you're watching on YouTube, you'll see pretty soon here something doesn't go quite right, and it's right about now. Whoops.
Oh, okay.
And then we had Larry Sharp on the
Oh,
allowance. He DNF'd.
He DNF'd.
But so he didn't walk he just showed up and drove it. So
Okay,
to his
of
credit,
course,
he didn't even know what the course looked like.
Right.
So he took the rest of that lap to just
Learn the rest of it.
He went really slow,
Yeah.
but then he went out again and did a great job and set a lap time, I think, that was reasonable enough for people to.
That's got to be a lot of pressure.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
You're
now on
representing-
YouTube, we're watching actually on YouTube is Steve Lau's car, and it's a white 2010 Cayman that he built in his garage. And you know how Porsche said that we can't fit the GT3 engine in because there's not enough room and there's like some oil. There's something that just doesn't quite fit. And the fix that he had was really simple. If Porsche had, it looked like if Porsche had just redesigned maybe the opening to the upper firewall in the Cayman, it could have been accommodated in a 987.
Yeah, I'm sure there's more to
So,
that
but,
decision.
just redesign it.
Yeah,
I'm sure it's way
yeah.
more than that. But like, it wouldn't have been the most complicated thing to do.
Wow, I can't wait to see it in person.
Amazing
He told me.
car.
So we were at the after hours lounge, and he told me about it. I was like, I remember you because he was, I think, FTD in Monterey
So
as well.
he's been FTD at 4 or 5 different parades, and each one in a different car.
Yeah.
So in Utah, so it's funny. Another member brought up like Utah like it was a legendary status. So I need to go
Yeah.
back and like ask people about
Is
what
he
happened
still
in Utah.
here?
Yeah, we're
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
film his car.
Let's talk offline.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
All
sure.
right, can we? I want to get stills of it.
Okay,
All right.
cool.
So he's become the Tom Pravasi
Yeah.
of past. Because
Yes.
Tom Pravasi, I remember, used to be the king of
The hot shoe.
FTVs whenever he showed up. So
And it's
great to see.
the similarities is even more because I think it's either his wife or his significant other, also top level driver, just like Sandy.
Yeah.
And
So
Tom.
he was top time of day. His wife, Tara, was second top time of day.
Look at that.
overall.
That's so cool.
So and they were about roughly a second off. He got a little bit below 46, and she got
It
46.
looks
something.
like we used every single pylon we had in the trailer.
yeah.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
And that gives a great. So this is why autocross it can be such a challenge, and people who just do track events look down at autocross, and I chuckle because if you don't walk the course, this can easily just turn into a sea of pylons.
Yeah. And the thing is, we don't chalk the course.
This one was chalked a little bit. So Southern
This one was
California,
chalked?
Yeah, normally we
specifically
do.
San Diego.
Oh, at
and
Parade we
around
chalked the
here
course.
they do it
Yeah.
differently, and I guess in Parade, yeah, but
Yeah.
they use a lot more cones out here in Southern
Yeah.
California.
Yeah, one
Yeah,
parade
they land the
volunteer
course.
who did not do autocross went.
I don't-
He went for the middle of the course.
So
with
some
the
of
chalk.
it, some of it's chalked. It's not chalked like the whole path, is it?
Well, sometimes if there's a crossover, you can't
okay.
chalk it.
Okay, I see.
But like
thought-
Damon said, walking the course is
You have
not
to.
mandatory. But if you don't want to get lost,
This was one if you didn't
not
walk
just
the course.
once, you walk it multiple times.
Yep.
So because you can see from the in car. Like for me, I haven't been to this course, and it looks like a sea of cones.
Yeah.
I can't tell if we're going to turn left or right coming up.
Yeah,
but
pretty
I
much.
feel bad for the Porsche
Instructor?
PEC instructor because he has so much pressure, and here's a guy everyone kind of like looks up to.
Yeah.
'Cause
Didn't even walk the
they're
course.
phenomenal instructors and
He had fun
drivers,
with it.
and not to have walked the course, and then being in a base Macan going up against much faster car. Yeah, Wendy Schaffer was happy that she beat the PEC instructor's time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's cool though. I mean, it does bring a spotlight to how amazing they are. He's in a base Macan, and it's good all around. I'll take this time, if you're ready, Robert, just to remind people, if you haven't signed up for our online newsletters, head to pca.org. You've got e-brake news, you've got performance news, and Mart Fresh news. Let's get into a little bit of news. We've been so busy here, I haven't been tracking a whole lot, but Manny picked up an IMSA article on Watkins Glen.
Yeah, so as we said in the beginning, this podcast was supposed to air a week later. So next week's podcast, you're going to hear the news
Yeah.
from this week, if that doesn't confuse the heck out of you. So by the time you listen to this, you will already know who won at Watkins Glen, because that's this weekend for us. But Porsche is obviously leading the manufacturer race, which after seeing Le Mans, you thought there's no way they're leading anything. But they are in the U.S., so they're going in to defend the points lead and hopefully keep it. That'll be a nice consolation prize if we can pull off a manufacturer's title at the end of the season. The JDC Miller car, which Robert has on screen right now, the yellow one, will also be there. So it was interesting because of Volker Holzmeier, who's on our next week's podcast. He's the president of Porsche Motorsports North America, and he gave a presentation, which I believe we recorded as well, just about motorsports and what he does. And of course, a lot of people are asking about the 963s and their performance at Le Mans, and I so much wanted to stand up and not defend them, but explain that Porsche does not hit home runs every single time. It's rare, and I know Rob, Jeff, your executive editor, asked me to write something about Le Mans, and I really thought I was going to email him and say, how about I also write about the history of Porsche and prototypes in their first year and how long it takes them to win Le Mans, because except for the 956, everything else has taken over a year to really sort out. The 956, they just nailed it and won Le Mans within, it seemed like a few weeks after they announced this car. But the other cars do have histories where just like we are now, people were doubting Porsche, doubting the car, doubting everything, and then Porsche comes back and wins it. Yeah, hopefully, if they could win the championship, wow, that would be phenomenal for Penske and the 963 to come out in the first year and win the championship. Le Mans, it would have been great to win on the 100th anniversary and the 75th anniversary of Porsche, but hopefully for next year.
I also want to take this time to thank Nathan Mers. We did a video with him that's actually should be online as we post this, and we did "What's My Porsche Worth?" and you picked several cars for us to go through.
Yeah, and that video is trending very very quickly. I think within 24 hours, it already has less than 24 hours. It already has close to 4,000 views. Yeah, we had a Carrera RS set up as a lightweight, but it's a real Carrera RS. We had a beautiful 99 996 early build. A
Young owner.
Yeah, young owner, 981. And, of course, we give you a full update on Project 964. And, of course, Nathan and Vu go over the current values, what to look for in each model. Yeah, it was a full house in the audience. And there was over close to 200 people watching live at YouTube while we were filming it. So it's become now, I think, an institution. Part of Parade is What's My Porsche Worth on Thursdays.
The 996 owner, was his name Bobby, and it was
Yes.
Arctic
Yes.
Silver?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
we're doing a Pano story on him.
Yeah, the 26-year-old guy who
Yeah,
drove
I
from
met him
Michigan.
too when he was
Yeah.
out doing the Concours prep. He was super chill.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
walking around
Fun to talk
looking
to.
for ideas, and I walked up and I introduced myself, and he goes, "Oh no, I listen to your podcast and watch your videos all the time." And I'm like, "Well, that's going to make this easier than asking you if you want to come in." So, yeah, it was a fun show, and thank you to all the volunteers who helped us push the cars because we're not allowed to drive them inside the ballroom. So,
Nor can the tires touch a carpet.
yes, we.
Wow.
Yeah. And,
Polytac. We know that name very well.
and we had to run over Porsche's plush carpeting, which, like someone said, is trying to push a car through sand. But yeah, we had a lot of volunteers who stepped up to help move this as quick as possible since it was a live show.
How cool was it to look into our audience and see the Porsche Club Insider T-shirts?
And the ladies from the Parade store told us that they've had to restock 2 or 3 times the table, and I was like, wow.
I don't
I'm
have
like,
one yet.
really? Yeah, I don't have one yet.
Yeah,
Robert's rocking one right now. And for those of you that are listening or watching, I'm sure we're gonna get it onto the PCA web store as well, so you can get your own. And there's mugs and travel. What? I was
So
just
as we're recording this, and people who are watching YouTube can see the background, this is in an hour or so, it's going to be the start of Tech Tactics Parade, and we have a whole day of seminars, some in multiple rooms, that we're going to capture, I think, 4 of them to broadcast later. That's why Robert's all set up in his little control room, and we have some interesting topics. Another one with Nathan about how to buy and sell your Porsche, some helpful hints he's had along the way. We're going to talk about auctions and what to expect in live auctions, and some stories with that. We're going to have Chris Jacobs from Overhaul, and him and Vu are going to maybe talk a little bit about behind the scenes of what happens at the reality car shows, not car shows, but automotive shows. We're going to find out, did he really rebuild an engine in 5 days?
Yeah.
Or completely rebuild a car? Yeah, so we have some great topics coming up, including we're going to have what we call the Scots. There's two gentlemen from Porsche that are going to talk about the iconic liveries. Remember the Coke car and the different liveries and what made him choose the liveries, how he did it behind the scenes. Yeah, so this whole week, if you're thinking about coming to Alabama, and even if you fly in, there's so much to do. And I missed the presentation because we were with doing the Classic Club Coupe reveal, but I missed the whole Michael Tam
I
and the
know.
livery of the car that special car they did, the Carrera RS. He had the whole behind the scenes story. So I was bummed that I had to miss that, but it's impossible to do everything at Parade, as we all know, because we're all doing different things.
Yeah, and you don't necessarily, like you said, you don't necessarily need your car. I'm sure the experience, it is great when you have your car at
been
Parade,
nice.
but there's plenty of stuff to do and catch.
And odds are, people, part of Parade is, of course, learning and enjoying the local restaurants and culture. And so I went out with the Parade store women, and my wife and I, and we went to this Mexican restaurant they looked up that had high rating in Old
Los
Town.
Arcos?
No, this was actually, we had to drive into Old Town, Palm Springs. Whole restaurant, Parade people.
Oh, really? They found it?
We went inside, we're like, hey.
That's
there were
funny.
like 8 tables out of the 12 that was all Parade people. Because the
Yeah.
waitress was like, is there a convention?
Yelp review.
But it just shows you how many, over 2,000 people, you're going to run into people at the breakfast places in town. And so that's the cool thing to me about Parade is that even if you know no one coming into this parade, when you leave, you will have a lot of new friends that you'll start seeing at every parade.
Yeah, and this has got to be a big shot in the arm for some of the local restaurants and businesses too. 'cause
Absolutely.
This is not exactly high
Yeah,
season.
Rubio's and Del Taco are doing really well with how many times I've eaten there now. So
Damon alone is meeting their quota. All right, so I want to remind everyone that if you're going to Rennsport, be sure to volunteer, and the registration is up, and you can check it out on Motorsports Reg. But here's where I want to transition and introduce Alex Ching, the Treffen North American chair. We're going to pull some footage from our podcast earlier, and here we go. Well, it certainly is an honor to have you both here, and we want you to continue to stay with us during the podcast, but we're going to bring on Alex Ching, the chair of Treffen North America. Alex, you around here somewhere? Come on over.
Treffen, we're going to the St. Louis area. Have you've probably been to St. Louis for the Arch?
Yeah, of course.
Yes. Have you been there yet, Walter?
No, not yet.
Okay, so you may want to listen so you can sign up for the Treffen event.
So Alex is responsible for one of the most popular events in PCA. It's the Treffen North America. We've been known to sell out the event in less than 8 minutes. The one upcoming this fall is Gateway to the West, September 20th through 24th. And we have you here, Alex, to just share with people maybe some inside tips and what to look forward to, because registration opens June 28th.
Correct. So we're much smaller events, usually around 300 people. For Treffen Gateway, our host is the Ritz-Carlton in Clayton, Missouri. We're about 10 miles west of downtown St. Louis. For this event, we are doing a Oktoberfest theme.
Ooh.
So bring your lederhosen and journals.
So it'll be a little cooler than it is right now.
Yes, much.
That's a big selling point.
Yes. And we have 5 guided tours for the first 2 days, and then 2 bus tours on our last day of the event. If you're into driving great roads, we go into the countryside out there outside of St. Louis. St. Louis is a really historic town. It was first settled by the French, hence the name St. Louis. And then in the late 1800s, the German immigrants moved into the area and started a lot of breweries and wineries in the region. So we're going to be hitting a lot of those little towns around there that has a strong German influence. So
Manny was around when the Treffen, or back then we called it the Escape. The idea came about. Our friend Tim Fleming first had the Escape here in the wineries of California, and it was supposed to be created so that if you have a parade in the East Coast, you would have something available that year for PCA members in the West Coast and vice versa. And it's a little bit different from a full Porsche parade here, where we have 2,000 people. Treffen is a much more intimate group. It's usually during the time period where it's primarily couples, no competitive events, lots of driving tours, lots of fantastic food, and the venues that you choose, Alex, are typically like 4, almost 5-star.
correct. Yeah, our minimum standard is a minimum of a 4-star resort. We go out there and we taste the food. It's fantastic. There's also a lot of good restaurants around where our venue is. So
It's about driving and eating, essentially.
Yes, that's correct.
That's what our club does best.
That's exactly
yeah.
it. So
And we kind
Maybe that's why Volker doesn't look at us as good drivers.
we have to choose, Volker.
Yeah.
Sometimes we
Yeah.
choose food.
We equal driver weight, but it stops at 80 kilos.
Oh no, we're done. We're done for. Good luck. Why did you look at me when you said that? You literally looked at me and said good luck when you mentioned weight.
You know what? I cannot be my friend here.
Yeah, so we kind of look at ourselves as the bookend for Parade. So we have our events in the spring and the fall. So it's usually a little cooler, you know. In the spring, you get to see a lot of new growth for the trees and stuff. In the fall, usually you can catch some of that fall foliage.
And there's always fantastic destinations, not only
Right.
for food, but historic sites. You're taking people to beautiful areas and roads that are definitely not just straight.
That's
the
correct.
requirement has to be they're curvy
Yes.
roads.
Yeah, we definitely, that's one thing we do look for. It's got to have fantastic roads for people to drive on.
Usually we don't have to sell Treffen because, as you said, it literally sells out in 8 minutes. Robert takes care of that. We usually go to his desk to look at the. He sets up a screen. Sometimes he sends us a link so we can see. It's like watching the stock market. It's amazing. As soon as it opens, you have hundreds of people, and you're watching as they're going for the registration process. And it's heartbreaking because they have to cut off at a certain amount, and it happens
Right.
really quickly. And so we try to give helpful hints to be able to get into the events. And part of those helpful hints is to look at that registration page prior to registration opening. Decide what you want. It's kind of like you're going to a restaurant. Go online, look at the menu, because imagine you only had 3 minutes to order.
You wanted to use the food reference. I was
Yes.
going to say concert ticket reference.
Yeah, but
There's no calories involved in that. Know how many tickets you want to buy. Know the events you want to go to advance. So when it opens, you get through it and check out
But
as soon
that's
as
not
possible.
good advice because you never got into Taylor Swift concert. The food's better.
The food's better. But
so
yeah,
let me say something for registration. Maybe it's a good idea if you give the older people and you decide what age you want to take it. Give them about 2 minutes, advance.
sir, you do
You're
understand.
asking for a friend.
Yeah, no, for me it's okay, but sometimes, my wife. No, I'm telling you, I look at it and it becomes complicated. Like so, and people are not as fluent at the thing. So I can see that, and I mean it. Maybe really, I don't know how you can do it, but maybe set aside, 50 entries for people who takes a little bit
Well,
longer.
I will
It's,
say-
and I mean it seriously.
You may have the co-grand marshal title at Rensport, but in PCA you have the golden key. So you and Yolanda, whenever, wherever, if you want to join us with PCA, we will
I've
certainly make
seen
that
Yolanda
happen.
with her phone. She can handle it pretty well.
Oh yes, she does. Absolutely.
Thank you.
So the secret is going to basically the tours are really the key because that's what
Correct.
fills up because we can only put so many cars
Yeah.
together in tours. You don't want a line of 100 cars. That's not fun for anyone. So it is limited. It's different than Parade. What are some of the tours that we're going to be doing?
So for this one, we're going to a historic town of Herman, which has been settled there since the 1700s. But great roads going out there. You're going to take part of historic Route 66 for that tour. We're going to the town of Augusta, which is the first appellation for the U.S. for the wineries. So there's also the town of Washington. We're following the Lewis and Clark Trail for that one. We're going to a small town called St. Genevieve to the south
heard
of
of
St.
that,
Louis. Lunch is going to be at a winery down there. The wine region is just throughout that area. They were probably one of the first wine regions in the U.S. until Prohibition came along and kind of killed the industry. Now they're trying to revive it, so it's booming. They grow their own varietals out there. So
And I think the lunches are a little bit nicer too. They're not
Yes,
just
yes.
a bag lunch or
no, it's not. Most of our lunches are catered or they are at a very fine restaurant in the area.
Now there's also this thing called an NDO.
Yes, that stands for Navigator's Day Off. We usually provide bus tours on those days for the St. Louis event, we're going to the Gateway Arch, and then following that will be a riverboat cruise. The second tour, we're going to the Anheuser-Busch brewery, and then to President Grant's farm.
Does the brewery have free samples?
Of course.
Of course.
And we provide
I'm
the
asking
bus
for
so
Walter,
you
'cause I know
can
he wanted to
sample all
find
the
out.
different brews that
I saw his ears
carry.
kind of perk up
Yeah.
when you said that.
He sold it.
Sold it.
Captain Spock.
But if you want to meet the Clydesdales, they're included with the Anheuser-Busch tour, and then
Oh, that's nice.
That's cool.
the U.S. Grant Farm. That's where they actually raised the Clydesdale, so you get to see a little of both sides of how they.
I'm 5'6". I need
along.
another thing to remind me I'm short. Oh, look at the baby Clydesdales.
So there you have it. Like, we're telling you all the secrets. It doesn't guarantee that you're going to get into Treffen, but
Right.
it's going to best your odds if you follow these tips. And please know, just like I think Manny says it all the time, we have a maximum capacity so that we can keep the quality of the event. And for those that get in, congratulations to you. But for those that don't get in, don't scream at us. We've given you a heads up.
Right.
It's just a very popular event, and it's we usually don't even mention it because people get mad and they say, "Well, you promoted Treffen, but it's sold out. It's sold out in a few minutes." So here's an insider tip.
Right.
Go look at that website. Choose what you're going to do. So when registration opens, you can go through and pick everything you want and be checked out. And odds are you'll probably get in.
So thank you very much for all that information, Alex. I look forward to seeing some of you at Treffen Gateway West. And this is almost a wrap. Anything else before we close out this segment?
No, it'll be good to get back to the regular studio. Big thanks to Robert, who has been working his butt off the past 3 days, doing just capturing content for the podcast for Tech Tactics Live. He makes it look easy, but there's a lot of wiring, a lot of cameras, a lot of logistics.
A lot of gear.
To make this happen when we go remote. But we do this for the members so they can enjoy what maybe they're not here. They can still get a bit part of Parade. Damon did a phenomenal job with the quick turnaround on some of these videos, including the Parade walk-around, Parade Concours walk-around video, which is trending really well. It's a
More to
hard
come.
week. It's a hard week for the staff, both the volunteer and the office staff, but I think it's a lot of fun, and it certainly pays off.
And it really will sink in at the very end for all of us, members and staff alike, that this was a phenomenal parade. So thank you to all that put in efforts to do so. Again, I want to remind you, if you haven't signed up for eBreak News, do so, as well as Performance News, Mart Fresh News. If you're watching on YouTube, likes, comments, of course subscribe, get us closer to our 100,000 subscriber goal. And thank you for listening. If you aren't currently a PCA member and you own a Porsche, grab that VIN, we'll sign you up. And if you're not a Porsche owner yet, consider the test drive program. We'll help you find that special Porsche. Remember to follow our podcast Instagram page, behind the scenes photos, Porsche Club Insider, all one word. So you can send us an email. We'll read them, podcast@pca.org. Stay in touch with all things PCA. Until next time, stay safe, and we'll catch you down the road.